The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Welcome back to the Nova Society, a space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by our regular panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon. Together, we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines, the history, and the big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what the panel has for us today. Today, we continue the conversation we had last Friday as we talk about the conflict on Iran and birthright citizenship. Yeah, but Brooke, it's like Scott has always said, but we still buy it. We still buy that gas. We still we put electricity in our homes. We still buy that stuff. We bitch about it. We complain about it. But as long as we have the capacity to buy it, and that's what I mean about China being smart probably about this, propping us up so we have the capacity to buy. Now, how they're going to do that, I don't think it's Keynesian economics, but I think that would be my thought, is they're going to figure out a way to do that.
Okay, but Trump is going to, still continue to lie and still continue on the trajectory that he is on. And this is the problem. I mean, that he does have dementia, and he is not he's not a stable, normal person. Once he has walked from Iran, which he may very well do, he's going to turn his attention to Cuba. And then after that, it's going to be something else, and or he'll be back on his ballroom, or he'll turn his attention internally and start in on the rest of us who don't support him. Then the midterms are coming, so we'll have more ice everywhere, I have no doubt. I mean, it's going to be one thing after the other with him, and the last thing I want to say, Scott, before you start, I don't know if Trump can simply say to Netanyahu, okay, I'm walking, you do what you want, or I'm walking, you have to stop. And does Iran then stop doing all the bombing it's been doing of its neighbors? And I mean, the Gulf states aren't going to be too happy with us or with Trump. I mean, the massive mess that's been created. I mean, Canada has plenty of LNG and other resources, which, again, I know, Mark, you keep saying I'm an alarmist. At some point, Trump is going to start looking again up there because of all the resources that they have. Oh, yes, he is. Okay. Yes, he is, particularly if Alberta starts making more noise about secession. If they want to break away from Canada and they're serious about it, and then they decide not to join the United States, they've got nobody. They have no. Alberta alone has no way to protect themselves. Trump will simply take it.
No.
What are they going to do?
No.
I hope you're right.
Go ahead, Scott.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of going a little bit back into an earlier part of the argument that you're talking about here, because I do think that there's something that Marco Rubio said the other day that I think plays into what is going to happen here. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but Rubio actually said this. Imagine an Iranian regime who, instead of spending billions of dollars building up all of these weapons, had invested that money for the people of Iran. Rubio said that. If that's not the biggest self-own I've ever heard in my life, I don't know what is. We did exactly the same thing that Rubio was talking about. We don't have nice things in this country because we have the greatest military in the world, and we spend, more than the next 9 militaries combined. And for what? What did we get out of it? We're losing this war. We're not winning this war. We're losing this war, and we're going to turn tail and run. And I guarantee you that's what he's going to announce tonight. Now, we spend so much money on defense, and it's so corrupt, and we are prepared to fight the last war, but we're not prepared to fight a war right now. That we have really just missed out on all of this. All of the things that we might have done that Biden tried to do, for example, and I think Biden's going to end up looking like maybe the greatest president ever just for his forward thinkingness and the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act, both of which Trump has turned away, where we were going to incentivize electric vehicles and renewable energy and move away from oil. Trump has pulled us back to oil and what he'll say is clean coal, and more dependency on the rest of the world, more trading in a global market, whether we pump it here in our country or not, and we don't use the oil that we create here through fracking. We export it, and we use money to buy oil to make gasoline to put in our gas tanks and our home heating oil, by the way, which I just filled my tank and it cost me $800. Normally it costs like $200. So, a ridiculous amount of money. But what they will do to keep the rentier state going is Trump will announce a windfall for the American people and send checks of like, I don't know, $2,000. What were the checks last time? Like $2,000, $1,200, $1,500 to
Something like
people.
that.
And across this country, bizarrely enough, that's more money than some people have ever seen. A lot of people have ever seen. And that will keep the economy going. And that will keep people spending. And yes, this summer, which is coming fast, thank goodness. I don't think we're going to see less boats out there in the Long Island Sound than we saw last year. I think they'll be the same. They're not going to be happy people. They'll probably won't run their engines as much. They'll go to a certain part, drop anchor, and hang out there more than they have before. But they're going to go out on their boats. They're going to drive their big cars. They're going to drive their SUVs and pickup trucks and all that kind of stuff. And they're going to pay at the pump and they're going to scream about it, but they're still going to do it. And we're going to continue, if we continue to charge the American people tariffs for things that other countries are doing that Trump doesn't like. We're paying a small fortune already for coffee. Even the price of scotch has gone up a little.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to have to do less with less. And that's a real problem. At the same time, and how about this? How crazy this might have been for the better one for the earlier listener, that Trump's DOJ is so focused on getting immigrants out of this country that they're forced to drop long-standing fraud cases, and people who were victims of fraud are going to lose out on any chance that they ever had of recouping any of the money that they were defrauded, because these cases are all being dropped. We are going in the wrong direction in so many different directions. I mean, I don't know how this is all going to end up, but we are entering a world of hurt, and this is we are in a bad way right now, and it's only going to get worse. And I see the stock market's up today. There's, and anytime the stock market's up, you really need to start thinking to yourself, oh my God, what bad shit is happening? Because there's nothing that the stock market loves more than bad shit happening. And yeah, and we're in a scary place right now. I can't put it any other way. And it seems to me that it's going to continue to get worse. And we've really made China, and you use the like thumb nose, it's really thumb and eye. They're shoving their thumb in our eye.
Yeah.
They are going to win what has been a 3-decade long economic war with America. China, we have guaranteed that China will win this.
The more I think about it, the more obvious it is to me that we are coming toward a major collapse, and I still cannot fathom the amount of support that this, in my view, it's a regime has, that the executive has. It's like 39% support.
I think it's less.
I mean,
it might be less than that right now.
Yeah.
He should be down in the teens.
But it's like 30. I think I saw 33.
Okay,
which
well,
is
it should be
still
lower
way
than that.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. It is. Yesterday, I guess it was, I read this article on Bloomberg, which was fantastic. And it was quoting a book that I'd never heard of before. I'm surprised I've never heard of it. By a Dr. Norman F. Dixon, who was a psychologist who was in the British Army or British military for like 20 years. And he wrote this book on the psychology of military incompetence in 1976. And this article in Bloomberg was talking about it. And it is essentially, if you rolled up the mistakes of every British commander who ever lost a battle, and we're talking about like, the Charge of the Light Brigade and Sir Percival giving up Singapore and Khartoum and all these like famous battles. And the British, unlike the Americans, have always celebrated their losses in a big way. I'm not exactly sure why they do that, but they seem to take more pride in their massacres, the massacres of their troops and so on and so forth, than we would ever do. Like, I think we would actually cover it up right now. I think we probably are covering it up right now. But if you took all of the negative qualities of all of these generals and military leaders and rolled them into one person, it would be Pete Hegseth, who believes in what he calls the warrior mentality. And this book makes very clear that you don't want warriors in a time of war. You want smart, strategic thinking. He denigrates anybody who's got an education. I was always amazed at these guys, these generals who come up and they've got like Harvard degrees and stuff like that, and they're really, really well educated. Hegseth ended that program that sends these generals and colonels and stuff to great schools to get great educations, because he thinks that makes them soft or woke or whatever it is that he wants to call them. And this idea that war is won with strength and not by cunning or not by thinking things through and being strategic again. And boy, it was a damning portrait of Pete Hegseth, who, to get back to our earlier conversation, is also incredibly thin-skinned and doesn't like Colin Jost making fun of him. And like Trump, wants to use the levers of government to stop people from making fun of him. And what a difference. I mean, even George W. Bush, who I did not like, was able to poke fun at himself and laugh
Absolutely
at Will Ferrell's portrayal of him as a gibbering idiot, basically. Even Nixon was smart enough, and I can't think of anybody I revile more than Nixon, other than Trump. Even Nixon was able to go on laughing and make fun of his stiff image, by saying "Sakatumi." And
Yes.
their leaders are generally able to deal with the fact that as leaders they're going to get poked fun at. And it's been the job of court jesters, through time immemorial at this point, to do that and to deflate them a little bit. And these guys can't stand it because they're so self-centered and soft-skinned and snowflakes and whatever else you want to call them.
Yeah. And, you bring up a very good point. And for Hegseth being thin-skinned, just like Trump is terribly thin-skinned. And when you talk about that article you read that said you took all the bad generals and they'd make a Pete Hegseth. In World War II, there was a thing that came out after World War II, because they asked the German generals, who did you fear the most of the Americans? And everybody seems to think it would have been Patton, because Patton was the fighter. He was the warrior. And it turns out that they had a very interesting take on all the different generals from World War II, the Americans. Eisenhower was the politician. He was the glue that kept everything together. They didn't see him as a great strategist. That was not his thing. But he was the one person that could have kept it all together, where Patton couldn't do that. They understood Patton could do the impossible, but there was a niche for Patton. They also talked about Bradley. They said, Bradley, he wasn't like a Patton. He didn't go running in and doing things. He really wasn't the politician that Eisenhower was, but he was the guy, he was the thinker. He never made mistakes. And you could always count on somebody making a mistake, but not Bradley. Bradley didn't do that. And the other one that they talk about that most people don't ever hear about is Lucian Truscott. Lucian Trescott, they really respected him. They feared him almost more than anybody else because he wasn't as predictable and as steady as Bradley, even though Bradley made no mistakes that they could capitalize on. He wasn't the politician that Eisenhower was, and he wasn't the reckless warrior that Patton was. He was actually the guy that you couldn't predict him. He was unpredictable, and he was quiet. He wasn't the guy to be in front of Stars and Stripes or any of that. He didn't want any of that. He was the guy who went in, did the job, did it right, took risks when it was smart to take risks, didn't take risks when it wasn't smart to take risks, and that's what made him successful. And I always found that to be an interesting comparison when we look at today. You know, those are the type of generals you need when you talk about the warrior mentality. Sure, of course, you've got to have probably a few field commanders that have that warrior mentality, but the guy at the top, that is not his job. He's got to be more the Eisenhower than the Patton. And we're seeing that this is really a disconnect with the way we do things here in the United States military, and it's really just recent. And I think the other question that Stephen asks is, what might this mean for Israel? And I think we really got to take up that topic because Brooklyn, you brought it up. What are we going to do? Tell Netanyahu to stop? Will he listen to us? The answer is probably not. Mm-hmm. Probably won't listen to us. But it does show that basically, you know, all of the justification, for Israel and this, that, and the other, we're supporting Israel. Basically, Trump was lying about that too. He didn't give a shit about Israel. He really doesn't give two rats' ass about Israel. He doesn't care about Netanyahu. Doesn't care about any of them. So what might happen? Israel might be on their own. And that's not a good thing. That won't be a good thing.
In fact, the leader that he's talking to more often than not on the phone is bin Salman.
Right.
Is not Netanyahu. And you know, while Israel certainly got its fair share of bad publicity from this war and people saying that we're doing Netanyahu's bidding and so on and so forth, it really does seem like we're doing a lot more for Mohammed bin Salman and Saudi Arabia, and that we really have taking on their most entrenched enemy on their behalf. And there's even some talk that Kushner, making so much money from the Saudis and continuing to ply them on his own business at the same time as he's making U.S. policy about war for his father-in-law, is, I don't even know what the word is. I mean, corrupt is certainly not even enough to call it. This is like, what is it? It's a national tragedy. Like I don't think we've ever even seen anything like it. It's like, what is it like? It's like Benedict Arnold is your
guiding
best
light?
spokesperson. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or I'm at a loss for words about it, because they're taking not millions but billions of dollars for themselves to put U.S. troops in harm's way and making enemies around the world, and a scorched earth policy, economically, militarily, diplomatically. You know, I mean, this could look, it's happened before. World War I was a matter of tilting into a war that nobody wanted, but everybody sort of mobilized together, and sides were drawn. And now, you just mentioned just recently Pakistan and China and Russia certainly has a big, we continue to see Russia doing really well because of this war and the sanctions being dropped and allowing them to bring their oil to Cuba, and the windfall that they're getting from all of this. And at the same time that they're providing intelligence for Iran to shoot down our planes and attack our bases. And, there's we all have heard, we all have said here that truth is the first casualty of war. We don't know the extent of the damage that has been done to our military bases all throughout the Middle East. Some people say that they're uninhabitable anymore, that they have to be abandoned, that we're going to have to get out of the region altogether. At the same time, there are a minority of people, Kushner and Trump and his family, who are making billions of dollars off of this. Have we ever seen anything like this? Never. I mean, it's like if Robert Lincoln, instead of spending the war at Harvard or on the staff of General Grant, went down to the South and said, you know what, I'm going to start buying up a lot of your plantations here, make me a good deal, and I'll tell you where to move your troops so that you could defeat the Union. That's kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah, what you said also, Scott, reminded me, I was thinking how it's also drawing the European countries closer together, with Italy and Spain and France saying, Switzerland also, that the United States not only can't use the bases, but we can't fly over their airspace either. And Canada is drawing ever closer to joining the European Union itself. So they're becoming much more aligned. And I was recalling also when Putin was first moving into Ukraine in his war, how all the Russian tanks were all basically effectively parked and open to being devastated by air munitions had there been any. And for all the assurances from Hegseth and the rest, oh yeah, well, we had a plan for this and we're planned for that and we're ready and we're this, that, and the other. Our planes were out unprotected on our bases, which is how this F5 or whatever our plane was, is $3 million, $300 million airplane.
Yeah, the F-35. And then F-35. You have that AWACS plane of which there are like 15 in the entire fleet.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking of. Completely destroyed, all on the ground, all unprotected. Yeah. And as I understand also from listening again to Belle of the Ranch, she draws, I guess, from a military website put out by the government. There's a call for vendors to provide quickly durable
drones.
No, protective shelters that can withstand ordnance being dropped from height and explosions, that like a portable cave almost, that can be dropped off in like Saudi Arabia or Qatar or one of these places between like 3 and 30 days from now, 3 days, 15 days, and 30 days. So they're the military is putting out a call, the Pentagon is putting out a call for contractors, vendors to create these structures.
Yeah. I mean, and too late, right? Too late.
Yes.
Yeah, too late. Yeah. Like we weren't prepared. We're not ready to fight this war.
Our allies, after we've dropped the bombs, you should have been there. Well, now this shows that we're not prepared at all.
Right. Our military,
something that he chose to do.
Our military was prepared to fight World War II again. And we're not fighting World War II. It's a very different war. And we should have seen that coming, because Ukraine did it to Russia. And what lessons did we draw from that? But before we go on, I wanted to read this. This is from that article in Bloomberg, because I think it's amazing. When you hear it, I think it'll ring some bells. There are few better examples than Douglas Haig, the commander of the British forces in the second half of World War I, who remorselessly sent millions of young soldiers into the veritable meat grinder for little or no purpose. Hundreds of thousands never returned. In addition to being manifestly lacking in compassion towards his fellow men, Dixon writes, Haig displayed the triad of traits which, according to contemporary research, defines the obsessive character and is correlated with authoritarianism. He was obstinate, orderly, and mean. If that doesn't sound to you like Pete Hegseth, I don't know what does. He's not a hair out of place ever. very, 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 very good physical shape, completely believing every stupid thing that he thinks, and simply a mean-spirited or but orderly human being. Just, you know, just a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah. And, with the question about what does this mean for Israel, I think there's something we have to remember with this as well. Israel just got done with a very long conflict in Gaza and expended quite a bit of material in that. And then battling with Hezbollah. And then, all the conflicts before this started in Iran. And they've expended a lot of material. I mean, a lot of their resources have been expended into this. And now they've expended it in Iran. Question is how, we always had great respect for the military ability of Israel. But with all of that degrading, I think we basically set them up to fail. We've set them up to be almost a failed state. And if we're out of there, I think that the Israelis are going to they might have their hands full, because this is not going to be like 1967. This is not going to be like the 7 Days War. This is because Israel was, although taken a little bit by surprise during those, they were at full strength. But they have been in conflict now for the better part of, well, what are we talking about? 3 years. And they're not a big country. And without our support, I think we're going to see some real problems from Israel going ahead if they decide to continue on with this conflict. And it may be that once we're out, the Iranians say, we want to continue this. Let's just keep degrading them.
They've said that they have Iran has objectives that they have not yet met.
Right.
And while they didn't start this war, they're going to, use this war to reach those objectives. And I agree with you 100%.
And
this is really bad for Israel.
So, the bottom line is that, Trump degraded the United States. He's also degraded Israel. So if you're a big Israel supporter, you've got to start looking at this and saying, wow, what has he got that country that I'm a supporter of? What has he gotten them into? And he's put them in a weakened position. As long as, people support Israel are getting, being bombed. As Scott points out, a lot of our bases now in the region are being reported as maybe uninhabitable. So you've taken this tiny little country, Israel, and they're already in a bad neighborhood to begin with, as far as, they're concerned. This idea of peace with the Saudis, which was a fabulous idea that basically Netanyahu threw out the window. And why did he throw it out the window? Because if he accepted it, he'd probably lose the election and probably be in jail right now. Okay. Sort of like, Trump and the Epstein files. Don't forget the Epstein files. So, here's where we sit with this. And, I'm going to give, is Trump dumping the war onto our allies to clean up, for them to clean up? I don't think once we're out, once whatever's going to happen with Israel has to happen, I don't think there's going to be much cleanup left. Because the other nations have been smart enough to sit back and say, we're hands off. And I think that's going to benefit those nations that were willing to do that. So there may not be a disaster to clean up. But I'm going to give you guys a scenario here. This may sound like crazy. Scott's always good at giving scenarios and what's going to happen. So this is what's going to happen with what Trump has done to us and to the Israelis. Number one, we'll probably eventually pull out of NATO. NATO will say good. The rest of the world that's against NATO will say good. We're going to become the rentier state. We're going to be supported by other nations because of the fact that we buy material. Because our military no longer needs to be offensive around the world because we're irrelevant, it's just going to become defensive. So our budget will begin to drop down as far as the military is concerned. And at some point in time,
Before I forget, Mark, sorry, I'm not. Once we're out of NATO, then all our forward force projection bases that we use as a matter of, as just without thinking about it, around Europe, and all the troops that we have deployed in Europe and elsewhere, they have to come home, right? We no longer have access to any of that. Okay, so that's something that
there won't be any need for them.
Right, so nobody has thought of that, I'm sure. Right? Do you know how many soldiers and bases we have? Because I don't. And in what nations?
We have a lot.
They're all coming home. We have a lot in Germany. I know that.
I worked in a little town called Berblingen, Germany, and in that little town there were 3 U.S. military bases.
Yep.
At any given time when we went out at night in town, there were more Americans out than there were Germans.
Yep. Absolutely. So, yeah, and those are going to come back, and now you got to provide them in the workforce. But there is some hope. There is a little bit of hope. Now, that may sound terrible. And Scott always says we never have nice things here, and he's right, because of what we spend on the military. For pretty much, that's one of the biggest reasons. Somebody is going to look at this conflict and say, it's all about oil. We need to be innovative. Let us start taking this as an opportunity. And those renewable energy resources, I truly think that somebody in the United States, that some group of companies are going to come together and say, you know what, we're going to make this the next opportunity for the economy of the United States. And hopefully we will become the world leader in it. And that might basically save us from the economic disaster that Trump has put us into.
Yeah, could happen.
I mean, again, if we're not spending money on influencing the world and projecting power throughout the world, because we have, basically nobody trusts us now anyway. We have no need for those bases. We have no need to expend that money. All we have to do is pay money for defense, which would be a third of what we spend, sending out. I mean, how much is this war costing us a day? $2 billion. We're saving that money. So we can start working on the infrastructure of the United States. And as I say, if we get some people that together that says, hey, let's not look at alternative energy as destroying the oil industry, which we don't own. We don't own it at all. How about we look at this as an opportunity for innovation, American innovation, and economic growth?
When you're done, could you bring Mark the realist back?
Okay, Mark the realist says we're screwed. That we have absolutely no chance whatsoever. And if there was a plan, we'll probably screw it up because we're really probably very, very good at that. That's just the way it's going to go. Is that more what you expect to hear out of me, Scott?
Well, I mean, realism in the foreign policy sense states that we live in a hostile world where other people want to do what is best for them, and we need to be stronger than they are to prevent it for self-preservation. So the idea is somewhat fanciful that all of a sudden we're going to decide, oh, you know what? We didn't need to be in Europe, in South Korea, in Japan, in all these countries around the world that we have military bases, the Middle East. We don't need to do that anymore. Why? Because the world just became a safer place.
No. And not at all. But let's remember, the rest of the world, we're separated by two real big ponds. The only ones we got to really. But no. Hold on now. We got to worry about Canada, which we really don't have to worry about.
No, we don't have to worry about Canada.
I don't think we have to worry about
Mexico.
Canada has to worry about us.
But we have to worry about how small these oceans are, in the modern day, and how, unfortunately, how our freedoms get weaponized against us, so that the very same thing that Ukraine pulled off, for example, in Russia, by having a truck that was loaded with drones, that when they reached a certain place by an airfield, the truck opened up, the drones took off and decimated the airfield. That's probably a lot harder to do in Russia than it is in the United States. Don't you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, no doubt. Oh yeah, I would totally agree with that. But what I'm saying is that the current administration and the current mood of the people, if they're supporting all this, is returning back to what, late 19th century isolationism.
Yeah.
And Trump has actually made, with the decisions he's made, has made that a real possibility. That the trust that we get from other nations is degraded. And you're right, we're fighting this war as if it's something like World War II, and it's not. If we take those sets from a realistic standpoint, I'll say, okay, fine. I accept the fact that we are moving back toward the late 19th century isolationism. I accept the fact that Trump has degraded our credibility in the world so far that probably we're not going to get it back for quite a few years. It's just not going to happen. It's sort of like when I say, when will we get back to normal politics in the United States? And right now, I'm not even sure that's ever going to happen. We'll have to see what happens. But the fact, when we look at those two givens, and I would say those are two givens, we have two options here. We could try to rebuild what we've lost, which will take an awful long time. Or if we're going to be internal, we can look internally and find opportunity to make up for the things that we've lost. Now, as far as, the oceans, and I get the point with the oceans, and, it's a smaller world than it was in, say, World War II, but we still have a Navy. We still have a nuclear submarine force. We still have all that. We still have defense. But if we're not spending money on offense, and I don't think there's a single person here that was more against Russia invading Ukraine than I was. I mean, I think it's horrible. But let's ask a real question here. How does it actually impact the United States? What was the attack on Ukraine? What was, other than our NATO allies, what was the impact to the United States?
Gas prices went up because they're priced globally.
Right. But not like they've gone up now.
No, that's true enough. And I think it's also the principle involved of sovereignty being violated.
But what was the real life consequences, other than the philosophical, other than the ideological? What was the real life consequences of Russia attacking Ukraine? Did it in any way impact the United States in a measurable way, other than gas prices went up 10 cents?
Not unless you had relatives there. No, I don't think you could say that.
I mean, I've fully agreed with Biden supporting Ukraine, but we've now positioned ourselves to where we're not even, NATO doesn't believe in us. When you've got the British saying, gee, maybe we are believing the Iranian regime more than we're believing the American regime.
Which all of us
do.
Which
all of us. I mean, yes. It's a 50-50. Actually, maybe it's more 60-40.
Yeah,
but you see the point there, Scott. If we're going to if we take what is and we're going to turn internally, the only thing we can do is try to take advantage of that and hope to be able to come out of it on the other end. But it's going to come out at sometime in the future, maybe not our lifetimes.
Well, the thing to me, though, is if Trump does withdraw the United States from NATO, he's also going to expect to keep the bases. I mean, he was whining and complaining about not being able to use this base and that base and fly over this airspace, and yet he was denigrating and belittling and mocking our allies. I mean, what did he expect?
Yeah, but all those bases
happen?
Are contingent upon being in NATO.
Of course, but he doesn't.
So if you're not in NATO,
I know, but he doesn't seem to make he doesn't even seem to be able to make the simple I think a normal, cognitively unimpaired, non-malignant, narcissistic person would be able to understand clearly that mocking and belittling and lambasting and so forth and ruining relationships rather than supporting them, and then expecting the other person, after that person has been badly disrespected and humiliated, and then expecting that person to be nice to you and do what you want. It's not going to happen. But Trump has loyalty that he expects to come to him. Well, he doesn't deliver any, and that's been how he has conducted himself for his entire lifetime. And that may work with the Republicans, but it doesn't work with international leaders. And he doesn't seem able to learn that lesson. And no one in
he's not going to learn that lesson.
No, he's not. That's the problem.
We still have 3 years.
Continue.
Unfortunately, we still have 3 years left of him.
Oh, I know.
We're stuck.
Dies first.
We're stuck. But the fact is that it's the next person that comes in
who's going to have a terrible problem.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That's not going to be an enviable job.
Can we
Scott's going to beat up on my thing here.
Well, I just want to take a step back. All right. So you're asking, how materially did it affect the United States, Russia invading Ukraine? The answer is probably not much at all, except for the fact that we have learned that allowing an aggressor to be aggressive without pushback and without being the arsenal of democracy, you only get worse outcomes later, right? Appeasement, etc. Now, that doesn't mean that appeasement hasn't worked in other circumstances. It seems to have worked to prevent the Cuban Missile Crisis from blowing up the entire world, right? I mean, that was kind of a big deal. There was subterfuge there in that, and for whatever reason, the USSR didn't let on that we traded our missiles in Turkey for the missiles in Cuba, which would be considered a form of appeasement. Right. But they kept that quiet, and we were able to move forward with a non-nuclear Cuba for the price of what seemed to be the price of pledging never to invade Cuba, which every president has adhered to. Although now, as Brooke points out, Trump is saying that he wants to invade Cuba and nullify that deal. Shockingly not. But so there is a place in the world, I guess, for appeasement, but I don't think in 2022 that was the place for it. That we were able to help Ukraine resist Russia's invasion. We were circumspect about it because Ukraine is still a corrupt Eastern European country where if we ship them arms, we're just as likely to see those arms being used in the war against Russia as we are to see them on the black market somewhere else, right? Because of the corruption in their government and their military at the time. We wanted to provide them with old and obsolete weapons that we didn't need anymore here and stimulate our economy by replacing them with newer weapons, so on and so forth. The world, unfortunately, is not 2022 anymore. Now it's 2026. Donald Trump is the president, not Joe Biden. And we are on the run all over the world. We are going to lose Taiwan. We are going to abandon Taiwan, probably. And Biden set us up to be able to do that on the contingency that we might someday lose Taiwan by bringing the chip makers here. But I don't even think that they're doing that anymore because Trump did away with all that, right?
Right.
Just as Trump did away with all the other programs that Biden had set up to quote unquote win the future, Trump has done away with those programs, and we're at the mercy of the world. We are, getting back to your earlier point about realism. Right now, more than ever in our lifetime, we are dependent on the kindness of strangers. We are denigrating them, as Brooke points out, and asking them for help at the same exact time. Nobody in history has ever done this the way Donald Trump has done it. And the other part of the good part about, I think, what you said earlier about not having this massive military and investing our money in drones, which cost $50,000 or $500,000, not billions of dollars,
and seem to be pretty effective,
and are very effective at taking out those weapons. I mean, we heard that there was a laundry fire on the Gerald Ford, and that's why it's in Croatia right now instead of in the Persian Gulf. But now we know that that's not true because Trump has admitted it in one of his rare moments of candor when his mind wasn't working as deviously as it normally does. And he said that they were being attacked from 17 different angles by all kinds of drones that were swarming and missiles that were hitting the ship. But he's not replacing it with nouveau war material like drones and undersea drones and things like that. There's still no minesweepers over there because the minesweepers were brought back to Virginia to be the wooden ones to be dismantled, right? And you need wooden ones to prevent the magnetic mines from attaching to the ship and blowing it apart. We replace that supposedly with these other, what's the word for it, ships that are multi-purpose, that can be used for different purposes. Liminal, was that the right word? But we're sending another carrier.
Yeah.
They're throwing another carrier in. They're throwing the Bush over there now. So it's not like we've learned anything from this, right? We're sending another huge carrier with 4,000 sailors on it over there. It's going to take some time to get there. It may get there too late. May get there and at exactly the right time that you would want it to be there. I'm not sure what sense there is in continuing what we're doing, but we haven't achieved any of even the objectives that we agree with. We haven't achieved. Like I think we're probably going to have to learn to live with a nuclear Iran the way we've learned to live with a nuclear North Korea. Right? North Korea was one of the trio of the axis of evil. It was the only one that became a nuclear armed state in 2006 while we had our minds in the Middle East and we weren't paying attention. They exploded a nuclear weapon and announced that they were now part of that family. And we've learned to live with it. We haven't had, except for a brief period of time when Trump and Kim Jong-un were going back and forth with the fire and fury thing until China stepped in and stopped it. We have not gone to nuclear war with North Korea, and hopefully we never will. We're going to have to learn to live with. Now, I don't know that Israel can learn to live with a nuclear Iran. I don't think Israel was real happy about learning to live with a nuclear Pakistan. And they're at peace, as far as I can tell, with Pakistan. It's been since 1979 that Israel was at peace with Iran. And certainly there's no love lost there between these two countries and the different ideologies and the proxy wars that they've fought and everything else, right? We can't forget that October 7th, 2023 happened because Iran was threatened by the peace deal that Netanyahu was making with Saudi Arabia. And that deal should move forward again, except, of course, Netanyahu is acting like an imbecile, voted for this law that says that any Palestinian prisoners or Christian prisoners can be executed by hanging within 90 days without any kind of appeal. A crazy new law that they just passed the other day that Netanyahu used to oppose, but now actually went to the Knesset to cast the vote for. So Israel is in really bad shape by their right wing, by their crazy militarism. They're committing suicide. I mean, these Orthodox guys over there don't even serve in the military. How crazy is that? And they're pushing the country into more and more disaster and more wars and putting more and more Israeli soldiers in harm's way without them even sacrificing themselves or their children for it. a crazy situation. But
Oh,
that's what the ruling class in this country has also done, right? From time immemorial,
oh yeah.
you could buy your way out of the Civil War if you had enough money.
Right.
And we're not, it's not Baron Trump who's going to fight this war. So we're leaving Israel in a really, really vulnerable place.
Absolutely.
None of their objectives. They wanted a regime change. We missed regime change there by over a month. If we had done this in January instead of February, we might have been able to get something done as far as regime change is concerned. But we were caught with our pants down. We didn't have the communication. When the people rose up against Iran, they found themselves without the backing that they were promised by Donald Trump, and they ended up, what is it, 30,000 of them being executed?
Yeah.
And that movement is over. We lost our opportunity to have regime change in Iran. So scratch that one off. We're never finding that fissile material, right?
No.
The 1,000 kilograms of 60% uranium. We'll never find that. There's no way that that's ever going to be found. So we have to scratch a nuclear Iran off the list, because if they want it, they can have it. They will get it. It may take them time. They're willing to wait centuries, decades, whatever. They're willing to wait for it. But we're not getting that one either. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to open up the Strait of Hormuz. The flow of oil will continue. Trump will declare victory. He will have achieved absolutely nothing. Israel is in a worse position today than they were before this started, because they were in a great position then, right? Thinking that they could fly over Iran anytime they want, and there were no missile defenses to shoot them down. They could do whatever they wanted to Iran. Now they can't do that anymore. And now these drones are, they've got these armies of drones that they're shooting at Israel every day, and missiles landing in Tel Aviv. They actually hit Dimona, the town, thankfully not the nuclear site, but they'll continue to do that until they hit it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right. They know where it is, So
yeah, it's not moving anywhere. They'll get it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and they were really, it's like the game of Battleship when you just miss it, and you put that little peg in, and you're like, oh, it was in the ocean, but it was awful close. The next shot
right.
may be the one. And so for nothing, we did this, and it's a disaster. And we have the wrong people in charge. We have the wrong weapons. We have the wrong strategy. Everything is wrong. Nothing is right. And our enemies are looking at us right now as a big fat apple to pluck off the tree and take a bite out of. And I don't know that there's much that we could do about it at this point. We don't run this world because anybody elected us to run this world. We ran the world because other people thought we ran the world. Now they know we don't run the world, and now we don't run the world.
And this is something that, you make great points, Scott, but this is something that we've been doing for quite a long time. We always talk about the thing in Russia and Russia going into Ukraine, and somehow we continually forget Crimea, which they did, and we didn't. Obama didn't do anything. He didn't do a thing. And, so if we're going to have all this this ability to project power, you've got to be willing to use it. And you've got to be willing to use it properly. And you're right. We have left Israel more degraded and more vulnerable than it was months ago.
Wait,
we have
Mark,
put ourselves,
sanctions. Obama put sanctions on Russia, increase the cost of their aggression.
Okay.
We weren't going to, anybody who, I used to have a right-wing friend who used to argue that point to you. And so I got used to my argument in that.
Okay.
Anybody who thought that we were going to go to war over Crimea or Ukraine is crazy. That was never going to happen. We were going to fight this by providing them with weapons and by sanctioning Russia and increasing the cost of that aggression on their part. And we were successful at that because what was the first thing that they did when when Trump came into power? Trump started saying we got to bring Russia back into the G7 and make it the G8 again. We got to return the sanctions, that we unfreeze the money that Russia has been frozen by Russia. That money continued to be frozen until recently. It probably still is frozen. In fact, I don't think anybody's released it. And the idea has been that NATO wanted to be able to unfreeze that money to give it to Ukraine to fight the war, to give to them so that they would have the money to buy the arms that they need. Arms that we used to provide for free to them.
Right.
They now have to buy from our allies who buy them from us to give to Ukraine, to donate to Ukraine. And so, just like in World War II before December 1941, we did the Lend-Lease. We provided airplanes. We actually brought things to the Canadian border and allowed the Canadians to come across and grab them and bring them over there. We gave Soviet Russia tanks and all kinds of money to fight the war on our behalf without getting involved. And if you remember, during the campaign 2024, there were people, right-wingers, who were saying Biden got us into two wars, as if we were fighting Ukraine and as if we were fighting the wars that Israel was in. And we were not. No troops were there. For the first time in decades, we had nobody fighting a war at the end of Biden's term. We were out of Afghanistan, out of Iraq. We were not fighting anywhere in the world. We were ready to fight if need be, but we were basically just donating money to other people. And that seemed like a pretty damn good deal to me, because my father always used to tell me, if you can solve a problem with money, that's a good problem to have. And that's exactly what we did there. Now,
really, when we look at it, that's exactly what Iran's doing right today. They're punishing us economically with closing the straits.
And also with missiles, though.
And with missiles too, yes. But really, there's a correlation there. They've shut down the strait, and they're punishing us with the idea of oil and with the financial impact that's had on the people. And again, that's all a self-inflicted wound. I don't think any one of us disagrees with the fact that we did this to ourselves. So is there a way out of it? No, I honestly don't think so. I don't think any move Trump makes at this point in time is going to change anything. I think the thing that's going to change is when Trump's out of office. And I'm going to tell you right now, everybody that talks about, the SAVE Act, that talks about, elections, that talks about all that crap, there's probably going to be election interference. And it's going to be by those countries that want to keep the same mentality of the administration in place, because they know that will degrade the United States and Israel even more. And I give all the credit to the other NATO countries, and I give all the credit to Canada moving on past us. And I have to give a lot of credit to China saying, hey, here's our opening. And you're probably right, Scott, we are going to lose Taiwan. There's probably no way around it. And no, we are not going to have all those chip manufacturers back here. So from a realistic standpoint, if we accept all of that is and all that could be, knowing that we're probably screwed to begin with, what is our move to move forward? And the only way I can see is, yes, the mentality has been isolationism, fine. Come back in within ourselves and rebuild. We're going to have to rebuild. We're going to have to rebuild everything. But if we're not spending that money on other, in our influence into the world, that money will probably be there. But we're going to need innovation. All the things that made America great: innovation, industry, technological knowledge.
Right. Looking at every problem as an opportunity. That was the
Absolutely.
American way, and we do not do that anymore. We look at problems as problems.
That's right. And that's my theory of what could happen from a realistic standpoint. Getting those people to look at this and say, this is an opportunity. And that's the only thing that's going to save us. Nothing else. All right. So real quick, before we end this up, let's go back to Tanya, who asks, can birthright citizenship really be overturned? And the answer is, sure it can. But it's going to take a change in the Constitution to do it.
Yeah, I don't think the court's going to.
No, the court isn't. Even John Roberts was, some of the comments that he was making, I was reading about it today, were very suspicious of the argument that was being made. And so that might be the tell there. And the fact is that it's in the Constitution. And Scott has said it's a low bar. Okay, it is a low bar.
Yeah.
And maybe it should be changed.
Sam Alito, the last name Alito sounds to me Italian, yeah?
Yeah, I would think, yeah.
Actually said that somebody born in America to a father who immigrated from another country would be beholden to the rule of that country, to which the Wang, the I don't know what he is, the plaintiff or the lawyer for the other side, for our side on this, said that would mean that every Italian American, every Irish American, every Scottish American, every German American. I mean, my mother was born in another country. My father's father was born in another country. We are a nation of immigrants. How stupid. I mean, is Sam Alito out of his mind? Does he not know that the Alito is not a quote unquote American name?
Yeah.
It is, there would be no citizens of the United States at all if he, if his argument was Cecilia Wang, I'm sorry for the ACLU, let me clean that up, said, Justice Alito, I don't think that's a plausible explanation. And he's going to be one of two votes.
Yeah,
right?
Him and Thomas.
Yeah, it'll be 7-2.
Well, and maybe Kavanaugh, because you never predict what Kavanaugh is going to do.
I guess that's probably true, but I can't imagine that Kavanaugh would go with that. It is such a facetious. Like, you're an originalist. You say you're an originalist, and you can't read the amendment. Like, you don't know what it says.
Yeah,
that's crazy talk.
Yeah.
So I don't think that'll happen. But hey, maybe it will. Who knows? And then they would have to go after a constitutional amendment. And that's obviously a slow and very, very difficult process. It hasn't worked a whole lot.
So what's the gas prices in Connecticut right now, Scott?
Well, as I said before, we just got an oil delivery, and the price of it was through the roof. I mean, I've never seen anything like that in my life. It's right around $4.
Yeah, we're at South Carolina. We're at $3.89 right now.
Yeah, no, it's bad stuff. I will tell you this: I emptied my snowblower of gas and put it in the car.
That makes sense.
I don't need that anymore. So hopefully,
it's unbelievable. And yes, to Tanya, that probably his approval rating continues to go down, and the approval rating to look at, first of all, is amongst Republicans. You want to keep that that in mind. It'll go down a lot slower, and independence is the important one.
Yep.
And right now, I think with independence, I'm going to say 28%. And I don't know who those 28% of independents are, but come on, guys.
Too high. Too high. It's got to be down around, half.
Well, even Democrats, it's at what, 8? So you got 8% of the Democrats that say he's doing all right. So
still too high.
How much are we going to trust the polls onto these kind of things? And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershworth, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Journal of Interdisciplinary Conflict Sciences, the JICS. This open access journal, double peer-reviewed, provides a platform for emerging scholars to publish their work and engage in meaningful dialogue across disciplines. The JICS is currently accepting article submissions on an ongoing basis and is published through the NovaWorks Scholarly Repository at Nova Southeastern University. You'll find a link to the journal in our episode description.